$1.4 million in rental assistance and housing support, with 7,760 rental assistance applications approved, and $71 million in food assistance and support programs. There's been close to 3 million meals distributed, and $6.5 million have gone to Second Harvest Food Bank. $16 million in immigrant assistance to families and individuals with more than 1,600 grants approved. $20.7 million in emergency relief to small businesses that include 1,075 grants approved, and 5,400 businesses have a permit relief. $7.3 million to help childcare and learning hub locations, with 309 grants approved. $6.4 million spent to put up more technology in public and have public Wi-Fi locations, and $3.9 million in nonprofit relief grants, helping 109 nonprofits. The second part of my report is that I would like to tell everyone that Supervisor Slocum, along with our partners, Redwood City Together and Caron, will be picking up our Facebook Lives, and we'll be hosting another topic on booster shots Tuesday, November 16th at 6 p.m. through Supervisor Slocum's Facebook. This Facebook Live will be held in Spanish, and it will include representatives from Kaiser, an SMC health rep, and a community representative. It will be an opportunity for the community members to learn about booster shots, as well as ask questions and know who is eligible. The third thing is, on October 18, Supervisor Slocum held a virtual meeting with constituents from North Farrow who were concerned about development of out-of-scale homes and tree removals caused by these developments. The meeting included Planning and Building Director Steve Monowitz, Deputy County Counsel Tim Fox, and as well as Chair Brooke Esser was in the meeting. After Supervisor Slocum and county staff listened to the stories of these constituents, they concluded that more research needs to be done, and there's another meeting scheduled to discuss next steps. And on October 19th, the Board of Supervisors approved affordable housing commitments of $54.3 million, which means that the Department of Housing Affordable Housing Fund 9.0 will bring 759 units of affordable housing to San Mateo County, and 2 of those projects are in Redwood City and in North Farrow. 1/3 of the units will be to help homeless and those with special needs or who are extremely low income. And then, as you all know, the redistricting process continues, and the commissioners are actually holding what may be their last meeting tonight at this moment. And then after this meeting, the commissioners will present a map that will be recommended to the Board of Supervisors, and then the Board of Supervisors must adopt the final map by December 15th. Lastly, in 2019, San Mateo County found that over 1,500 residents were experiencing unsheltered homelessness, and we fear that number since the pandemic probably grew, which is why the Board of Supervisors approved a land swap agreement with Redwood City that will lead to a development of a location with 240 beds that will be called the Navigation Center off Maple Street. It's near 101. The development and construction of this Navigation Center will begin construction hopefully in spring of 2022. And I believe that concludes my report. If there's any questions or comments.
Thank you very much, Maggie. And what I'd like to add to that is if there are any members of the public who are interested in participating in the follow-up session with Supervisor Slocum with regard to the tree canopy, you can send Maggie or myself, for that matter, an email, and we'll make sure we get you an invitation to that meeting. And a final point on that, we're actually going to have a presentation at the November North Fair Oaks Community Council meeting from TJ Homes, where they'll basically present their plans, their projects for the community, the tree planting program that they're having, and give people in the community an opportunity to participate in that. So a couple of sessions there where members of the North Fair Oaks community can have their input with regard to some of the development that's going on. I have to apologize. I skipped over the second agenda item that we have, and that would be public comment. Anyone can speak up to 2 minutes on any topic not on the agenda. Please note that the council may not discuss or take action on items that aren't on the agenda this evening. Jennifer, do we have any public comment? Spoken public comment, that would be.
Okay, if anyone has a public comment, please use the raise hand feature and you will have 2 minutes to share your comment. Okay, so I see two folks. Jenny Miller Bowen can go first. So once the timer is on the screen and it's starting, you may share your comment and I will give you permission to unmute yourself. Okay, Jenny.
Okay. Hang on. I'm looking for my notes, but I can't get to my notes. Can I start over in just a moment? Because
Yes.
hang on, my I'm unable to get to my notes because of the the way that's set up. Hang on a second. Okay, I'm ready now.
Okay.
Okay, hi, I'm Jenny Miller Bowen. I'm a member of North Fair Oaks for Trees, which is a community group to address concerns about the rapid destruction of the mature tree canopy in our neighborhood. Our trees are not only contribute to the unique character of our neighborhood, they also provide significant environmental benefits such as carbon sequestering, the cooling of our neighborhood, and providing wildlife habitat. Our group has collected over 460 signatures. Actually, it's more over 500 now. On our petition to save our neighborhood tree canopy. Outdated county tree protection regulations and lack of oversight has led to excessive tree removal in our neighborhood. Our desirable and relatively affordable neighborhood has become a target for big developers that have little concern for our neighborhood character or environmental protection. We are concerned about large developers who are using aggressive tactics to buy up multiple lots in our neighborhood, and they are removing mature trees in order to build the maximum square footage technically allowed. Their business plan, together with the county regulations that we currently have, don't account for the cumulative impact of multiple mature tree removals in our neighborhood. Also, these large houses are listed for over $3 million and are inconsistent with the county's stated goals to improve housing affordability and availability. Protection of the mature tree canopy is key to combating climate change and aligns with the county's goals and commitments for North Fair Oaks and also for the county's goal to advance carbon neutrality, which should be reflected in any decisions surrounding tree removal and development. We'd like to ask that the Fair Oaks Community Council help us to request that the county update tree removal regulations in North Fair Oaks to consider the cumulative environmental and neighborhood impacts which align with the surrounding communities, and place moratorium on tree removal permits and revoke existing permits until those regulations are updated. We know that they're started updating those regulations, but it got kind of stalled by about 2018. And also to place a moratorium on new housing construction that would result in the removal of any significant or heritage trees until regulations are updated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next person up is Ron Snow. So I will also start the timer and you may unmute yourself. Are you ready?
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Okay. So,
Yeah, let me thank you for letting me speak. I'd like to second what Jenny was saying. It's so important to save these trees. I know you are aware of the many issues that exist in the infrastructure of North Fair Oaks. You're dealing with an increased population. Is just going to get more populated as time goes by. And so it's important to address these infrastructure issues now. My focus in my talk right now is on the park green space and playground areas in and near North Fair Oaks. The ability to easily access park areas and be in a quiet setting surrounded by nature is an essential step to achieve better mental health and shrug off stress. It improves the standard of living for all those in the local area. Right now, the Ravenswood School District has 2.6 acres available for lease. By supporting the use of this area, which is next to Flood Park, actually part of Flood Park, but next to it, we have the ability to greatly improve the sports and nature benefits of Flood Park and provide North Fair Oaks with a much better environment. The 2.6 acres could easily host soccer, lacrosse, free play, basketball, whatever, all that is needed by the North Fair Oaks community. And that step would preserve the picnic areas that are drastically being cut under the current revitalize or reimagine North Fair Oaks. This is a unique opportunity and it needs your backing. Warren Slocum has agreed to contact county manager to look into this, but I'll close quickly. But with all the many priorities that on the manager's plate, it needs your backing to get attention. Please contact the county manager, Mike Callaghy, and Warren Slocum to make this opportunity to improve North Fair Oaks a reality. Thank you.
thank you. If anyone else has a comment to share, please use the raise hand feature. Okay, Clara, is anyone on the line have a comment to share?
Jennifer, there is no public comment on the line.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Well, thank you both very much, Ginny and Ron, for your input this evening. Next up on the agenda is the county manager's report. That's usually handled by Deputy County Manager Justin Mates, who is actually covering the redistricting meeting that's going on this evening. So I have a couple of updates from him. First of all, with regard to a discussion that we had at the last council meeting with regard to the benches on Middlefield Road as the road continues to be improved. And we had a concern, several members of the council, I should say, had a concern about the shade that would be provided to the people sitting on those benches. And given the design of the available benches that not only had solar panels, but also provided shade, they would only provide shade at kind of high noon, given the design that went forward with the proposal that we approved last month. Now, the county is concerned about this. The Department of Public Works is looking at it, particularly with regard to the use of trees that could perhaps provide shade around those benches. So long story short, the county is aware of it, DPW is aware of it. There isn't a solution with regard to the benches themselves, but the county is going to be looking at providing trees to ensure that there is shade for the benches that are on the improved Middlefield Road. The other item that was on there was we had a discussion with regard to the color of the benches. And DPW went back to 2018. Apparently, there were a couple of meetings that were held with regard to colors of the benches, that sort of thing. Both a study session as well as a regular meeting of the community council. And as I understand it, the plurality was for the rust color. That was the highest vote getter among the colors that were chosen at that time. And those benches indeed have actually been purchased. So that will be the color of the benches that we're going to get as Middlefield Road is improved. And that is the extent of the update that I received from the county manager, from Justin today. Let's see, next up we have council members' reports. Interesting things going on. I'll go ahead and go first. I've been involved in the planning for the North Fair Oaks Community Festival. It's going to happen next year. I think everybody in the community will be excited about that. It's scheduled for August 14th at 2500 Middlefield Road. That's the parking lot for the community center. The planning on this is being headed by Sal Zuno of the Sheriff's Department. He's getting assistance from obviously Supervisor Slocum's office, Casa Securlo, as well as others. So that planning is going on as we speak. Updates from the neighborhood response team meeting that was held last Thursday. Obviously, Middlefield Road project is moving along. The update that was provided indicated that the sewer line is being installed. They're starting joint trench work on the side streets. The rain that we've been getting, fortunately, will slow that down. Unfortunately, let's see, there's a countywide pavement preservation program going on. It's for the most part complete. The striping is being finalized, and Fifth Avenue is going to be finished either this week or next week. I have an update from HSA, actually important in that the rental assistance program, still has funding. And we need to get the word out on that. There's a URL that I can provide in chat. I'll do that so that people that are interested in that can take advantage of that. Also, the one-day homeless count is coming up. Volunteers are needed for that. It's January 27th of next year. If you're interested, please let me know, and I'll forward your name on to the people that are coordinating that count. Let's see if I have anything. See, Let's Talk Housing is holding a series of webinar discussion series. I attended the first of those on October 13th. The second one was yesterday. The topics are why affordability matters, housing and racial equity, and so on. The details are at letstalkhousing.org/events if you're interested in the other webinars that are coming up in that series. And let's see. I attended a webinar on the Redwood City Schools, actually the Redwood City Schools Education Foundation. For those of you who don't know, it was formed in 1983 by parents that were concerned about Prop 13 challenges. And they're basically targeting their investments towards schools with the highest needs. The exciting part about that is that Violet King, a Redwood City resident, recently left the foundation over $1 million. That's going to transform the organization. The foundation is forming a committee to think about how to structure those gifts to make an impact in local schools. So that's very exciting news with regard to how it'll impact the local schools. And finally, I completed the Civics 101 program last week. For those of you who don't know about it, it's a 10-week program offered once per year by the county. It consists of a 2.5-hour session every Tuesday night and features presentations by the leaders of virtually all the departments in the county. You really do come away from it with a much better appreciation and understanding of the work that's performed by our 6,700 county employees. The program manager is Eric Fogard, and if you're interested in the next session, I would send him an email. His email address is eforgard, F-O-R-G-A-A-R-D, that is, at smcgovernment.org. And that completes my update for this evening. Vice Chair Prado, do you have an update for us?
I do not.
Okay. Beatriz, Councilmember Cerrillo, your update? You're on mute, Beatrice.
Yeah, no, nothing for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Rodriguez, ever?
Yes, thank you. This time around, I've been extremely busy with a new job, and so I've been canceling a lot of the usual, community-related meetings. I was able to attend a couple. One was the one you've mentioned, Brooks, the North Fair Oaks Festival. And the other one was a community-based emergency preparedness with the Menlo Park Fire District. And that was the extent of it. But I wanted to take this opportunity to go back to the public comment and ask if it may be possible to invite Department of Public Works to discuss the current policies on tree removal, on tree maintenance, and on tree planting in North Fair Oaks. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, and perhaps it would help us, the council members and the public as well, to hear from Public Works what is the current policy on each of those issues that relate to trees, so that we can continue the conversation and support the community in those issues that pertain to tree removal, but also to tree planting, as we're going to be hearing later on from Canopy. So that's the extent of my report. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councilmember Ruiz. Is Jennifer with us this evening? No, I don't believe so. Councilmember Whitney, Blair?
Hi. I've been going to the new North Fair Oaks Library, and it's pretty awesome. They had like a book selection where there's like a reading club, and they had free copies of a book that everyone was going to discuss that you could take home, like Oprah's book club, but it's San Mateo County Reads was the project, and it's freaking awesome. They got lunches for kids after school to come by the branch, pick up a lunch, and then go to the study room in the back, and it's like peer tutoring, and it's a pretty vital place. And I think I'm a real fan of libraries, but the Half Moon Bay Library is my favorite county branch, followed by San Carlos, and North Fair Oaks is great. I'll see what Atherton looks like when they get done with the endless construction. But I like live in libraries. I think of it as like a third place, like a living room in the community where you can spend time and interact with people. And it's a real positive asset to our community to have this library available for kids to go after school. So if you haven't checked it out, please just, they've got actually really extended hours. So they have evenings and afternoons. I benefited personally because a group that I'm a part of wanted to go from Zoom to in-person hybrid meetings at a community center, and we needed Wi-Fi that was reliable. And the library checked out a hotspot for 3 weeks, and we ran a whole meeting with like 28 people, 10 in person, 18 online. It's a great resource for the community, so check that out. And as far as the stuff that's going on, I'm excited about Middlefield. I know we're going to still have some pain ahead, and I experienced it a couple times on commutes. And I have empathy, and I'm going to do my best to support the businesses by just parking my car and patronizing them, because I know it's going to be hard to keep businesses open when that particular block is all tore up. And I have a dream that we will get a bike corridor with a continuous bike trail parallel to the Caltrain tracks that will go through Redwood City, North Fair Oaks, Atherton, Menlo Park, and down to Palo Alto, creating a vital active transportation corridor. But no one's really talking about it. But hopefully someday, if I keep squawking about it, we'll get something nice. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Blair. And for your information, I'm trying to get the North Fair Oaks Library director to speak at an upcoming agenda. I'm very interested in finding out what's going on, given the transition from, Redwood City control to county control. But it's great to hear your input with regard to the resources that they provide. Councilmember Aki, Gabriella?
Yes, I just wanted to add to what Maggie Cornejo said about Second Harvest. I have been a part of Second Harvest with the Boys and Girls Club since last summer when COVID was rough, and it was very helpful for communities and family members to come get the resources of foods and dairies. And I'm currently still a part of it to this day, and it's still helpful. And it occurs every Wednesday at the Boys and Girls Club parking lot in Hilton Street from 5:30 to 6:30, and it's something very helpful.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Aki. Councilmember Kurinsita, is it Lolly? Do you have a report this evening?
I do. So hello everyone. I hope all is well with you all. So I do have a couple of reports, and for this time around, I have a little update on the vaccine pop-up I mentioned, I believe last week, and that will not be continuing at Cañada College, but it will be continuing at the College of San Mateo. And hopefully we will contribute and help them out during that process, and more updates to come on that. I am also in communication with the OYE Planning Committee, and they're just planning for the next, for the upcoming year for the OYE conference that will be hopefully hosted at Cañada's campus. So I'm super excited. And really quickly, I am also here to spread the news about Cañada College's first event this year, which will be in person. It's Halloween Bash, and it's open to the community. So there will be a children's parade and a photo booth, and it's from 4:30 to 4:45, and then the rest of the event will be held from 5 to 7. And this is during 5 to 7, there will be we will be previewing and showing a movie, Nightmare Before Christmas, and having a costume contest, etc. And once again, everything from food to goodies is free, and it's going to be a great night to build community and just to celebrate the holiday season. We really want to get the community back to coming in person. And as always, the masks are required indoors. And one more time, this event is open to the whole community. And I will be putting in flyers in the chat if anyone is available to come in. And thank you. That's all for me.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Kurinsita. Let's see. Our next agenda item is a presentation from the Health Department on Aging and Adult Services, Elder Dependent Adult Financial Abuse, and Ties Lines. The presentation is going to be given by Shannon Morgan, who's the Health Services Manager of Aging and Adult Services. Shannon, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My presentation be uploaded, or should I be sharing a screen to pull that up? I
can pull it up for you, Shannon, if that's okay.
That would be helpful. Thank you. Good first, I almost said good afternoon. Good evening, everyone.
Let me see. Okay, all right.
While Jennifer's pulling up, I can do again an intro. Shannon Morgan, Health Services Manager with the Aging Department within San Mateo County Health. I've been a county employee for 16 years. I initially started off over at HSA, Human Service Agency, as a child welfare worker. I then moved over to Aging in 2013, where I have held various management roles. Today, or this evening, I thank you for inviting me so I can talk to you about Aging and Adult Services and 2 programs that I oversee. The county's Elder and Dependent Adult Protection Team. I will refer to it throughout this presentation as EDAP. And I will also talk to you about our hotline. It has historically been called the TIES line. Jennifer, would I be able to say to you next slide, or do I have the ability?
No, you can just say next, and I will go on to the next slide. Can you see the screen?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Oh,
much
perfect.
appreciated. Next slide. And what does Aging and Adult Services do? Again, we are a division within the County of Health, and our role is to meet the needs, supportive, protective, case management, any needs that could be identified of older adults and persons with disability. Our guiding principle is we would like to optimize the quality of care of all older adults and persons with disabilities in San Mateo County. Next slide. What is APS, Adult Protective Services? What is EDAP? Many of you may be familiar with child welfare. It's a protective program geared to address the needs of vulnerable children. Think of the APS as the same thing, but serving the older adult population and persons with disability. Currently, older adult population, the age criteria is 65 and older. Dependent adult population, the age criteria is 18 to 64. However, new adult protective services regulations will be changing January of next year, which will lower the age criteria. Nonetheless, Adult Protective Services, we're a county county-led program with state oversight. Our goal is to investigate, address, and provide remedy to older independent adults who may come to our attention for concerns of abuse or neglect. Later in the slides, I will break down abuse and neglect and give you some examples of these big topics I'm talking about. EDAP. EDAP is a subset of APS, and it was launched in 2015. What we were seeing prior to 2015 was an uptick and the number of financial abuse cases that were coming to the attention of Aging and Adult Services. We were seeing so many seniors, so many individuals with disabilities being just simply taken advantage of financially. So a multidisciplinary team was established with leaders from Aging and Adult, our county's county council department, the district attorney's office, and many leaders from these entities put their heads together to create some objectives to address financial elder abuse. The goal of EDAP is to streamline investigations. Streamlining meaning having clear understanding of when a report comes our way, what would our investigators do? Who would they work with? Also, we would like to coordinate services, supportive services. So that includes reaching out to community entities, reaching out to our internal county departments and divisions, whether it's connecting to someone with Medi-Cal services, reaching out to our health plan of San Mateo, reaching out to internal aging programs to provide supportive resources for victims of financial elder abuse. Lastly, we have had a targeted approach with doing outreach. So wherever we are invited, we will come, whether it's council meetings, pre-COVID, whether it was San Mateo County Fair, Seniors on the Move annual conference, talking to law enforcement, first responders about the signs and symptoms of financial abuse and what to do if you have concerns. Next slide. So now that I've given you a little bit of understanding of what is APS, what is EDAP, I want to get into the scope of the problem and talk a little bit about some demographics as well. Next slide. Next slide, sorry. This topic is so important because what we are seeing and what I have been reading in reports is something called the silver wave. It was historically called the silver tsunami, but I would like to be politically correct. I don't believe that this issue was a tsunami, like it's a disaster. It's a wave, and it's a beautiful thing that older adults In California and locally, they're living longer. This population is increasing. What we know is that the older adult population, age 65 and older, they represent 13% of the population. They're commonly known as our baby boomers. My mom, my dad, they're part of that generation, and they're living longer. And thankfully, that's due to, healthy living, just more options at their disposal. Next slide. So at the state level, national level, we're living longer. But I wanted to share with you some data at the local level. And this was taken from our 2010 census report, that in San Mateo County in 2010, older adults were, that demographic, that age group was growing so fast, faster than California as a whole. I will read some of the bullet points that I think are very significant. And let's start with our 65 plus population. It was at 14% compared to California, which was only at their older adult population, was at 11%. And what we were seeing in 2010 was not only was the 85 and older population growing faster than California as a whole, 85 and older at 51%, the retirement age population grew 50% faster than the rest of California. Yes, you will have access to this presentation. And what I would also like for you guys to keep on your radar, that in 9 years, things will continue to increase. So 9 years from now is 2030. And what we know is that by 2030, the older adult population in San Mateo, again, 65 and older, will increase by over 70%. And what we also know by 2030 is that a quarter of the state's population will be of older adults. So this topic of financial elder abuse is very critical in light of what we know about the changing demographics. Next slide. So let's get into the meat of this presentation. You may be wanting to know, well, what is elder abuse? There's so many components to it. So these next couple of slides is going to talk about categories. And we're going to start with mental abuse. It's also known as emotional abuse. Again, for the interest of time, I will just pull out some of the bullet points. So emotional abuse could be negative speaking, inappropriate language, cursing, insults being levied against an older or dependent adult, harassing them, just speaking to them and interacting in a way that is causing emotional distress. And that emotional distress can also lead to individuals hurting themselves. So it can be multifaceted. Sexual abuse, unfortunately, does happen in the older adult population. And of course, aside from what we would think of sexual abuse as forced sexual contact, it can also include other things, invading someone's personal space, touching on body parts that are unwelcome. And the signs of that could be an older adult with bruising on personal private areas, unusual staining on clothing, or an older adult withdrawing when they're around someone. And again, this doesn't always equal sexual abuse, but it could lead someone to dig deeper and ask some questions. Next slide. So what's the signs of neglect? There's neglect by others, meaning someone is causing neglect. And there's also self-neglect, that someone is self-neglecting themselves. And neglect by others could be a caretaker not taking their loved one to needed doctor's appointments, not giving them the medication that they need. Self-neglect could include the same things. An older adult who has a compromised medical condition and they are ignoring their doctor's appointments. An individual who is failing to purchase food or to attend to their daily needs. Unkept household could be signs of neglect. Physical abuse. Sometimes that can be just very apparent. where you can have someone with black eyes or broken bones or just unexplained injuries. And they may have a rationale for it, saying, well, I fell down some stairs. But you pretty much know, well, they don't have stairs in their home, and it seems unusual. Something for you to dig deeper into. Also can be change in behavior, an individual becoming more closed when their daughter is home, an individual who will react when someone, invades or approaches their personal space, almost pulling away. That can be something that you may want to speak more about and to explore if there is some physical abuse occurring. Financial abuse. That can include signs of, again, bills not being paid, an individual house going in foreclosure, property taxes not being paid, basic needs, again, not being met. And as we talk about financial abuse, these next slides are going to fit into this category. Next slide, please. Who are the common abusers, you may be wondering? Sadly enough, it's usually individuals that the victim knows. What we know in our data within aging and adult services, top category of alleged abusers are typically family members, adult children, extended family members, maybe even a spouse. Also caregivers. These can be informal or informal caregivers. And then you have the strangers out in the communities, scam people who call, as we all get the scam likely calls every day. Those can be typical abusers. You may have individuals coming from a reputable profession, a fiduciary, someone who has been entrusted to represent someone, an older adult, and they take advantage of that. But again, 90% of the abusers are typically someone the victim knows. Next slide. What's the cost? It's a big cost. Financial abuse is taking millions, billions of dollars from older adults. Annually, that loss could be up in the billions, as you see, 36.5. And there's typically some buckets in which this abuse is taking the form of exploitation, as you see here, individuals just using misleading information to dupe someone. Sometimes that can even fall under undue influence, using their words to manipulate, to talk someone into doing something that typically probably wouldn't do. Then there's fraud, the common thief who is getting into your accounts, pretending that they are you, just committing fraud. And as I mentioned previously, then you have the trust abuse, someone that the older or dependent adult has entrusted to handle their affairs. These could be individuals who have become their durable power of attorneys, even their conservator, and they're taking advantage of the individual's assets. Because I didn't mention this, not only is individuals, older adults in San Mateo County living longer, there's a subset of older adults who have amassed a substantial amount of assets just due to proper, just wise investments and just managing their funds. And in aging and adult services, we're committed to making sure that older adults are not victimized. Next slide, please. So now that we know the signs, we know what the cost is, let's talk a little bit about scams, because this is something frequently we get calls about. So type of scams, next slide. Telemarketing scam. I get them every day. Working from home, you may hear on this presentation, my landline phone may ring. And 9 times out of 10, it's a telemarketer. And these are people calling, trying to sell goods or services. And sometimes when you pick up the phone, which I will say later on, probably don't pick up phones where you don't know the number. It almost can seem like a warehouse or a factory. You can be on the phone hearing someone talking to you, trying to sell you something, but you hear all this background noise as if there's a group of individuals in the back doing these telemarketing calls. These are calls that you should be leery of. I tell my mom all the time, if you don't know the number, please don't pick up. It's probably someone who means no harm. It's someone you don't know. And if it's important, they will leave a message. And that's would be my advisement. I'm sorry, I didn't move my mouse, so I have to log back in. Next slide. Government agency. Someone could be calling, hey, I'm Shannon. I'm with Aging and Adult Services. Can you give me the last 3 digits of your social? We need that to process your application. Be leery of that. You want to have someone, if you think this could be legitimate, have them give a number where you can call back. Have them send you something with their letterhead, but be very leery of individuals calling representing of agency. What we know, Social Security usually never calls you. The IRS is not going to call you. They're not going to ask for these identifying informations, because a lot of times the scammers, they have a little bit, they already have some information about you, and they just need you to give them that final piece. If I have time, I'll share with you my own personal story of recently being victimized financially. Next slide. Then you have the money transfer scams, individuals, mystery secret shoppers, advanced loans. You have a lot of now COVID related scams, COVID-19 vaccine related scams. And a lot of times these scams start off with trying to entice you with something that sounds too good to be true. And then they have you, then there's an action they want you to do. And typically that action is going to your bank, withdrawing some money, or getting a money order, or getting a blue.com card and giving it to them. So be very careful of money transfer scams. Next slide, please. The classic online sweetheart scam. We get so many individuals. What we've learned in COVID, which is very devastating, when many of us were sheltering in place with our loved ones and friends, there were so many older independent adults sheltering in place alone. Social isolation is real, and it takes a toll on people. And individuals who are older adults who are savvy, and not even savvy, but have the access and can navigate a computer, they're online. And many people, they're finding friends and significant others online. And I'm not here to prevent someone from finding the love their life online, but be careful. Be very careful. You have individuals, we get calls for individuals where they've been dating someone, online dating for months, and they're in another country. So they need this older gentleman to send them thousands of dollars so they can get the plane ticket to come out here. They never come. In the cases that come our way, they never come. And or they're en route to come, and then they get stopped by law enforcement. So then there's another piece of the scam. They need more money. So I just would encourage people to be very careful of who you think you're interacting with. Pictures can be misleading, and this is very common. Next slide, please. Sweepstakes lottery scams, as I mentioned previously. Again, you won $1 million, you won this. And you may think, well, I've never entered anything. How did I win? If it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. And I would advise individuals on this call, and when you go and you talk to family and friends, to be very leery of these too good to be true offers related to money. Next slide, please. The tech support and virus scam, very common as well. You're on your computer, you may get the warning, your computer is infected, there's a virus. Call this number and we can wipe it away. They're wiping away, all right. They're in your computer getting access to all your personal information. So again, if you're concerned about your computer, you're concerned about a virus, take it to a reputable company. You know, there is Best Buy, there's the Geek Squads, there's entities you can go to, but be very careful of calling numbers and giving someone your credit card because you do not know what they're going to do with that card. And sometimes one scam, it will start off at one scam, and then your information is sold. So you start off with one scammer, they've sold your information, then you get someone else calling you, and then the scam starts again. It can be very cyclical. Next slide, please. Social media scam, grandparent scam. Again, the panic. It's always usually some urgency. I'm stuck somewhere. I need help. That's typically the grandparent scam. You can be, we've heard people where they're at home and someone saying, "Grandma, it's me, Billy. I'm in jail." Then you have the lady saying, I don't have a grandson named Billy. Or some people, they just get so frantic, they're rushed because the scam is, "I'm in trouble. I need help. Can you please go to the Walmart or go to Target, go to Walgreens, get a prepaid card." You have people getting dressed, getting in their car, going to get the card, and then stopping and taking a pause to think, wait a minute, my grandson isn't here. This couldn't be him calling. So I would say when someone is pretty much being an imposter, so if you know someone, if you yourself are getting those type of calls, just pause a minute and ask more questions and give me more answers. And again, there's nothing wrong with hanging up. If it's real, you will get more calls. You'll get some verification. Social media scams, again, the online games. You're putting Candy Crush. Nothing wrong with Candy Crush in these games, but just being careful when you enter your credit card, because sometimes this information is stored, and many times there can be people behind the scenes lurking on your computer. That happened to me recently, where someone was logged into my Yahoo account under the activity. They were logged in Palmdale, California, and in Los Angeles, and they were intercepting my Yahoo emails from the credit union. So I wasn't getting the email saying someone's transferring money from your account to a Navy credit union. These scammers had hacked my account, hacked my email account. So this is not to, if you take anything away other than our hotline number, this is not to scare you, but to empower you to ask questions and to take pause before jumping to action, especially when it's regarding your money. Next slide, please. Resources and assistance. Yeah, you can go on. Thank you. Protect yourself. Please, please investigate offers that come your way. I think I probably said it 3 or 4 times right already. If it's if it's too good to be true, it probably is. There's no such thing as a free lunch. You know, when you go on trips, you have people where you get sucked in. Well, we want to sell you this time study, and they get you all day, and they're selling and selling and selling. And scammers and people who are up to no good, they sometimes know the power of words and how to slowly manipulate someone. So I would say, protect yourself, investigate any offers that come your way, and please reach out. Please do not feel embarrassed to reach out to a family or friend. And again, I do these trainings, and I was victimized. And so it can happen to anyone, but talk to a family or friend to confide in. Hey, I need to run this by you. I'm getting this call from someone and they're saying A, B, and C, and they want me to go and withdraw money. What do you think? Understanding some individuals may not have family and friend that live close, or may have dynamics where they can't do that. I will give you a number in this presentation where you can call, and it's a team of staff that I oversee, and we're here to answer questions. Next slide, please. We all know as older adults and persons and people with disabilities are living longer, many of them need in-home caregivers. This can also be an opening for scammers. So please go through a reputable agency. There's care.com. There's many caregiving agencies that have been vetted, where fingerprinted, where you will know that you're getting someone who's on the up and up. And If you don't know of any, you can always call our aging and adult services hotline. We never recommend the agency because, we want to stay neutral, but we give you a list of numbers to call. There's also the county's Help at Home booklet where you can look in there as well for other resources. And again, aside from not answering phone calls from people you do not know, be careful of people coming to your door. It's an interesting world we're living in. And although we would want to think that everyone has good intentions, there are people who do not. There are people who spend every waking day thinking of the next scheme and fraud or tactic to take money away from you. So just be very careful who you let in your space. Please be very careful who you give identifying information to. Next slide. Again, about protecting yourself. Please do not give out any important numbers, especially those last 4 digits of your Social Security, banking, routing numbers, account numbers. Again, with a lot of these data breaches, scammers sometimes have a little bit of your information. They may already know where you live. They may know your name, but they just need that last piece of information, and they're banking on you to provide it under a distress or out of just feeling pressured. And please don't believe calls claiming to be from, again, government agencies, IRS. We would all love to think Mike Callaghy would personally call us, would personally send us an email. And not to say he doesn't want to, but be very careful. There's people misrepresenting themselves. And you just, again, you want to question, why is this coming to my attention? What are they wanting me to do? And again, be suspicious of any entity wanting you to go to your Western Union, go to the MoneyGram, because these mechanisms, it's hard to track. A lot of these overseas and internet scams, a lot of times your bank is going to, if it's a scam, they're going to, give you a credit, reverse the charge, make you whole. But with regards to the law enforcement piece, the crime, it's sometimes very challenging to track these individuals down, because many times they're in a whole nother country. They have another identity. Just because they're calling and you see a 650 area code, that's probably not a 650 number. It's a lot of different ways that we can hide numbers and identities. So be very just questionable of that. Next slide. This is a resource, it's like a placemat put together by Aging and Adult Services and my previous community outreach specialists who would do these presentations. And it pretty much breaks down common scams that I've talked about, the signs, and what to do. Very just clear, straightforward, and website below where you can learn more about senior scams and look at this more in detail. Next slide. Report it. Please report it. And even if you think you're not calling to report, you just want to get a listening ear, that's fine as well. We just want you to pick up the phone and give us a call. Next slide. And you may be saying, well, who am I calling? Oh, jump the gun before I say that. So when I say report it, you can, of course, call our local Aging and Adult Services agency, or you may want to start off at your comfort level. Let me talk to my daughter. She's coming in for the weekend. I'm going to talk to her about these calls. Or let me call my grandson, because someone is saying that he's him and he's at McGuire jail. Let me call him and see if he's okay. Please, if you are not being victimized, but you have concerns about an isolated neighbor or just an individual where 2 years ago, they just seemed very put together, but now they seem more disheveled. They're talking about a lot of money that they're spending or a lot of money that they're giving away. If you can, talk to them about that. We do know, again, with aging and adult, these individuals, they are adults. They're not children. And so people do have the right to make poor decisions and lack judgment. So we can't parentify them, but we definitely want to provide tools so people can do some discernment and do some critical thinking about actions that they will take. And again, if you've been victimized, please tell. That's why I wanted to share my story. By sharing it, you just release any reservations or just embarrassment, because it can happen to anyone and there's nothing to be ashamed of. Next slide. Again, if the situation is emergent where you feel like someone is saying, hey, I'm coming to your house right now and I'm here, I'm coming to get your information, call 911, please. There are our local police departments, our detectives and field officers. I've worked with a lot of them. They're very personable. They're committed to working with us to resolve these type of matters. And if it's not emergent, you can call our Aging and Adult Services hotline, 1-800-675-8437, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Individuals, we have after hours workers. Someone is on call right now, taking emergent calls that may come our way. If it's not emergent, and you just want to, hey, it's not emergent, I don't need to consult, but I want to make a report. Again, business hours hotline staff will follow up, but we do have on-call staff working every day, holidays included. And if you know someone if you're concerned about someone who does not live in San Mateo County, I've attached the Department of Social Services web link, and you can find the local APS agency in various counties. There's an APS agency in every county. Next slide. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I'm over time, but I'm wrapping up. So before I conclude, our hotline number, I've provided it previously, but it's staffed by 3 social workers, and we have our on-call staff. We take consultations. The hotline is just the access point for all services within aging, and it's a clearinghouse for community-based resources. We have great individuals, long-term staff that definitely can answer your questions. Next slide. And again, if you need more information, call our hotline. Can't plug it enough. If it's something you walk away from, don't be embarrassed. If it's too good to be true, question it. Do not give out personal information. And if you need to consult, call our hotline. All calls are confidential. Next slide. And we want to see, stop, and prevent elder and dependent adult abuse, because it's everyone's business. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much, Shannon, for your presentation. Do we have any questions from council members for Shannon? Looking for raised hands, anything like that? Let's see what we have here. Councilmember Rodriguez, I see your hand up, Ever.
Yes, thank you very much, Shannon, for your presentation. Very thorough. And it's great to know that there are resources out there, because yeah, scamming is going bonkers all over the place. And I've had a couple of friends who have been scammed by imposters taking over other friends' email account and communicating to them that they are in dire need. They had an accident and they need money right now. Yeah. People fall for these things, because obviously if you receive an email from your best friend or whatever, you want to help them, but yeah, it's just crazy. But anyway, one of my questions was if county has assisted living within the county for elders.
The question is, does the county have assisted living placements or facilities? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to speak in error. I don't to my knowledge, there's none that I would say that are owned by the county, but within aging, if someone needed assisted living facilities, we have agencies or numbers we can call and say, well, there's Brookside, that's assisted living. And we never make any recommendations, but we do know of assisted living facilities and also board and care facilities as well. So yes, I can't say they're owned by the county, but there are assisted living facilities within this county.
Great. And my second question was related to collaborations with community-based organizations. Does your department do that with organizations such as, maybe Generations United comes to mind? They match, elders with children or youth, for that matter, and so there's those programs are mutually beneficial, etc. So I was just wondering, you are somehow in touch or coordinate or collaborate?
We do partner with agencies. I'm not sure if we've established a working collaboration with the organization you mentioned, but that is a good one to keep on our radar. Within Aging and Adult Services, our AAA program and acronyms that are, but our area agency on aging. So it oversees all our community-based agencies where individuals go get Meals on Wheels and all of the senior centers. That sits under Aging and Adult Services. So we do have a provider services community outreach component where we do some collaborations. But there's never a wrong thing to expand and to continue with the collaboration.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Whitney, Blair, your question.
I know a lot of people are aging in place and may find themselves like with the kids moved away and the social capital kind of disappears if they don't have the extended family, and people don't always know their neighbors. So I know the contact with social services is real important. Like if there's a Meals on Wheels person, they're checking to make sure the person's all right. And these hot lunches that they do, that's to get people out of the house, make sure they're doing all right. I feel like as a community, we could do a little bit more to get to know our neighbors, but it's not always easy. And, sometimes people don't want to come out, but I really appreciate you giving the presentation tonight. It's sort of like, we don't always have blood relatives, but we can kind of be a family as a community and look out for our neighbors. So that's cool.
Thank you, Blair. I totally agree. You can create your village, and family does not always have to be blood relation. Aside from this program, Aging and Adult Services did oversee the state-sponsored COVID-19 Great Plates Delivered emergency food program. And that feels like everything feels a blur since 2020, but it was for almost a year, maybe a year and a half, providing meals 3 times a day for our needy individuals. And we found individuals where, yes, our hotline did have to reach out to them because their needs were beyond just a hot meal, social isolation, or just community concerns, landlord-tenant concerns.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from council members? Shannon, if you've got a moment, could you talk a little bit about outreach and awareness efforts that Aging and Adult Services makes? I mean, obviously, you've got a fabulous portfolio of services here and a great deal of information. Talk a little bit about how you go out into the community and make sure those individuals who might be susceptible to things like that become aware of your services.
I will say, I have just completed a hire to have someone.
Cool.
We were vacant. This position that I'm taking over right now had been vacant. We had someone at the onset of the EDAP launch out at, again, the senior pre-COVID, seniors on the move, farmers market, culturally specific events, Penn TV, public radio. When there's Elder Awareness Month, that's typically, I believe, in June. We're doing PSAs. We've had PSAs on Caltrain, talking to law enforcement. So we're open to, if you want us, we don't care if it's 5 people or 15. We just want to get in front and really just humanize this terrible phenomenon we're seeing. And if there's some agencies that we need to set up relationships with, we're open to that. So I will be training the next individual who's going to take on this role, having them go out. We have a district DA inspector who does trainings as well. So we also team up with our local law enforcement. So it's typically hospitals, senior centers, bar associations, any and everywhere. First 6 months, I think the previous person did almost 100 trainings. She was moving. She's now the district manager for Josh Becker. So she was very versed on the who's who in San Mateo.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, thank you very much. Do we have any public comment on Shannon's presentation? Jennifer?
If anyone has a public comment, please use the raise hand feature and you will be permitted to speak for 2 minutes. Clara, is anyone on the line have someone to share?
Jennifer, there is no one on the line.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much, Shannon, for your presentation and certainly for all the work that you do on behalf of the aging community, in particular in North Fair Oaks.
Thank you so much.
Next item we have is a recommendation item. It's an off-street parking exception for 891 Fifth Avenue. The presentation is going to be given by Tiara Pena of the Planning and Building Department. Tiara, the floor is yours.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for getting me on this agenda for October. I know it was tough to get on, but thank you. I'm going to be very quick. I can share my screen. Is that what you prefer, Jennifer?
Up to you. I can share the slides as well.
Okay. Let's see. Let's go with that. Let's go with you doing it. For some reason, it's not popping. Okay. I've had some trouble technically. So the address is actually 891 15th Avenue in Menlo Park. And it is for a home improvement exception. If you could start the screen, that would be great. Okay. So it's consideration of a home improvement exception, off-street parking exception to allow one parking space, which is existing, attached to an 1,100 square foot single-family residence. The proposal for the home improvement exception is for a 423 square foot rear yard addition to allow a master bedroom and bath. Can you go to the next slide, please? Is it okay? There we go. So you can see here that it's towards the rear. Hatchie runs behind it. There is no property owners to the rear. So the point of the home improvement exception that bumps out into the rear yard setback by 5 feet, or it's 15. It's going to be it's 4 feet 6 inches. So the resultant rear yard is going to be 15 feet. Now they're also doing a little addition on the side, as you can see, to bump out some bedrooms and just enlarge it a little bit. If you could go to the next slide, please. So this is kind of the graphic of what the garage is located in the front. They do have quite a large driveway, so they could actually park some vehicles in the driveway as well. And the extension again would be towards the rear. Next slide, please. So this would be the new addition to the rear. And like I say, there's no neighbor behind them. So no one will be impacted by the encroachment or the addition. Next slide, please. And again, this is another graphic just kind of showing how they're bumping this out and kind of following the line across the rear to enlarge a couple of bedrooms and a bathroom within this space, and adding so that they could have the master bedroom and bath suite. Next slide. So this is just basically, it shows the extension on that left side that will follow the straight line along the rear. Next slide. And this is categorically exempt from CEQA because it's maintenance of an existing structure. So what that means is there was no negative declaration that needed to be produced for this project. And the next slide, I think, is the last. Just that the staff is asking the council to provide a recommendation to the community development director for the off-street parking exception and the home improvement exception for this this project. That ends my presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Do council members have any questions? I don't. Oh, there we are. I don't see any hands raised, but do council members have questions? Council member Whitney, your question.
So it's a single family home and they're expanding it, maybe kids or whatever living at home as adults, but are they adding like rental units or Airbnb stuff, or is it just a single family home after they're done?
It's just a single family residence. They're trying to extend just, they can have a master bedroom suite and extend some of the existing bedrooms, but there's no additional living space other than that.
Councilmember Prado, your hand is up, Juan Carlos.
Hey, Terry, how are you? I have a question. What would be the percentage of the lot if the plans go through? The percentage of the lot that would be built out?
Okay, I didn't do the calculation, but the lot is over 6,000 square feet, and with the addition, the property would be no more than 50 square feet, so it's less than 50%.
Okay, and I believe the county it's 40%. Is that right?
50% for the R1 S73 zoning district.
Okay, so this would exceed the maximum?
It would not.
It would not. Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Rodriguez, Ever, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just wanted to make the usual question, if there was any public concern from adjacent or nearby neighbors. Did you hear any, Tiara?
No, I haven't heard anything from any neighbors. And again, the rear is hetchy, so there's no one in the rear to that property.
But where,
nothing from the adjacent properties either.
But were the neighbors notified of
yes.
the intent?
There was a 300-foot notification radius to the project.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions from council members? Ever actually asked my question. Is there any public comment with regard to this?
Yes, if anybody has a public comment to share, please use the raise hand feature and you will have 2 minutes to share. Clara, is anyone on the line wanting to share?
Jennifer, there are no public comments on the line.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Then I would entertain a motion then to approve the off-street parking exception for 891 15th Avenue. Can I have a motion to that effect?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, do we have a second? We need a second for Juan Carlos's motion.
I'll second it, Blair.
Okay, thank you, Blair. Okay, Jennifer, can you do a roll call for us, please?
Yes. Okay, Chair Esser,
Yes.
Vice Chair Prado,
Yes.
Councilmember Cerrillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Gillespie, absent. Councilmember Everardo Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis, absent. Linda, absent. Councilmember Whitney,
Yes.
Youth Councilmember Gabriela Aki,
Yes.
and Youth Councilmember Citlali Curencita.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, our final presentation this evening is going to be from Canopy. We're going to be discussing the tree canopy and Canopy's efforts to expand that in the community. The presentation is going to be given by Maya Briones, the community forestry manager for Canopy. Maya, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Jennifer, would it be okay if I shared my screen? It might be a little easier for me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Can everyone see this? Great.
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. Well, good evening. Thank you so much for having me. And I actually have a fellow coworker here. My name is Maya Briones, and I'm actually now the advocacy associate with Canopy, though I was formerly the community forestry manager, and I organized neighborhood tree plantings within North Fair Oaks last planting season. And I'm going to share some details about those today, but I want to introduce my replacement, Arlene Nunez Garcia, who's here with us today. Arlene, would you like to introduce yourself to the council?
Council, it's good to meet everyone tonight. My name is Arlene, like Maya had mentioned. I recently finished my degree at San Jose State University, where I got my bachelor's of science in environmental studies and a minor in restoration. And I joined Canopy this summer, taking over for Maya as the community forestry coordinator to help bring more trees in Canopy in East Palo Alto, Bellhaven, and North Fair Oaks.
Thanks so much, Arlene. So I want to just remind everybody who we are in case, I guess it's been a while. We're a nonprofit called Canopy. We're an urban forestry nonprofit. Our mission is to grow urban tree canopy in Mid-Peninsula communities for the benefit of all. And our vision is a day when every resident of the Mid-Peninsula can step outside to walk, play, and thrive under the shade of healthy trees. And so we are working towards realizing this vision for residents in North Fair Oaks. Throughout this presentation, I'm going to describe our success so far in planting trees within the community and also our success in connecting with residents. And then I'll also be talking about some challenges we've faced to continue this work. I'll just start by saying that San Mateo County has already stated its commitment to growing the urban forest and canopy cover throughout the county, including North Fair Oaks, in multiple documents. I'm not going to go through them all, but I just wanted to highlight some policies that really call out trees as valuable. In the Community Climate Action Plan, there's items about traffic calming and complete streets. Trees are known or have been shown in research to do just that. Tree-lined streets tend to slow car speeds and calm traffic. And this is particularly important for North Fair Oaks, I feel. There's an equity component of this item. It says prioritize implementation with an equity lens focusing on high need communities. And I feel that North Fair Oaks fits that. North Fair Oaks has the highest rate of walking and biking for transportation in all of the unincorporated San Mateo County, and also the most bicycle and pedestrian collisions per square mile. And this may be due to a lack of safe infrastructure. And so, trees along streets is a really great thing to help with that. The hazard mitigation plan calls out extreme heat, and extreme heat is no stranger to residents in North Fair Oaks. So some mitigation strategies that's been called out in the document to address extreme heat are to develop an urban heat island reduction program that includes an urban forest program or plan. Also to modify landscape and other ordinances to encourage appropriate planting near overhead power cable and phone lines. Trees can definitely be planted under lines as long as it's the appropriate species. Right tree, right place is very key. Another line says, just that. It calls out the Right to Right Place National Arbor Day Foundation program, which is exactly what Canopy does. We use that motto every day. Right to Right Place is so critical in the urban matrix. And finally, it says to support tree watch programs that proactively manage problem areas through the use of selective removal of hazardous trees and to follow through with tree replacement. And that's very important because if trees are hazardous, they need to be removed. The North Fair Oaks Community Plan discusses improving the tree canopy coverage through street tree programs and providing canopy trees along new alleys and driveways. And then finally, I'll just mention that the County of San Mateo named its first Chief Equity Officer earlier this year, which is really great. It's a really amazing step for the county to do that and acknowledge that equity needs to be at the forefront of their work. So I want to acknowledge that there are many challenges that community members face in North Fair Oaks. This is a snip of the webpage on the Board of Supervisors, and it says, with higher rates of unemployment than any other parts of the county, North Fair Oaks residents work hard to support their families, and this is extremely true. Unfortunately, this means that many work 2 to 3 jobs just to make ends meet. North Fair Oaks is about 50-50 renters and owners with a median household income of $77K. And so I'm saying all this because trees, there are a lot of these are some barriers to trees because trees do have some cost. Canopy's program is free. We plant free trees, purchase a tree, plant it for free, and then there's 3 years of free tree care. The thing the resident needs to do is water the tree, but there's still costs associated down the road, and that can be intimidating for residents, especially residents that work multiple jobs and are very busy. So caring for a tree may be an extra burden. However, this doesn't mean that North Fair Oaks shouldn't have trees, public trees or private trees. All communities deserve trees and access to healthy environments. What I feel that this means is that communities like North Fair Oaks needs more support from nonprofits and their government to ensure that they live in healthy environments that are supported by equitable policy. So this is a heat map displaying North Fair Oaks and the gradient of heat throughout the community. It's becoming more well known that communities of color and low-income communities have historically been constructed in a way that has led to the exclusion of green spaces and infrastructure that would allow for trees. The lack of canopy cover has resulted in the current conditions in North Fair Oaks that you see on this map, which is extreme heat days. Urban heat island effect will increase in severity as climate change persists, which it will. Increasing heat will particularly impact communities such as North Fair Oaks, where there is little canopy and more concrete. We call this more gray than green, the green gap. There's also older homes without air conditioning, lots of concrete. And so there is an obvious effect that tree canopy cover has on heat levels in cities. In a meeting with community leaders, we were told that some of the key issues affecting community health include insulation in existing housing stock. It's insufficient. Residents lacked air conditioning, air filters, and insulating shades. And the lower tree canopy cover is making the community hotter. So the Redwood City side of North Fair Oaks clearly is different than the Atherton side. In this map, we see both the correlation of lower heat and the higher percentage of tree canopy on the Atherton side of North Fair Oaks versus the Redwood City side. Generally, the Redwood City side of North Fair Oaks is working class and face many challenges, which I've already talked a little bit about. And not all of these challenges will be addressed by tree canopy by any means, but there is a strong correlation between tree canopy cover percentage and public health outcomes. Some negative health outcomes include an increase in respiratory and cardiovascular disease due to increased air pollution, because there's no barrier from the trees protecting the community. There's an increase in health cost, which is especially problematic for low-income families who can't afford to spend too much on expensive healthcare. There's also deteriorating mental health and outdoor activity. Now, this has always been a problem, but I think it really was highlighted during COVID when people across the Bay Area started noticing that some communities, it was easy to socially distance and go outside and go to parks and, feel some level of okay during a pandemic. But other communities, if it's hot, there's no trees, there's no parks nearby, there's not much motivation to go outside, and it can really impact mental health and also physical activity levels. This is just a snapshot from, I think it's the hazard mitigation plan, showing projected average number of high heat days per year, it's year 2030 and year 2070. So it's definitely going to increase in San Mateo County across the board. It's hard to see the little polygon of North Fair Oaks, but most of that polygon is either more than 5 or 5 category days. But the southern part of it towards Atherton is around 3 to 4. So I'll move into now what we've done so far in North Fair Oaks. This is an overview map of the neighborhoods that we've held plantings in so far, and I'll go into each one individually. So our very first planting in the community was in partnership with Redwood City PAL. They're a great organization that helped us spread the word to families in the area. They also hosted Canopy volunteers, which we are really grateful for. This event was planned to be a kickoff event for Canopy's presence in North Fair Oaks. Unfortunately, the pandemic changed our plans a little bit. So we originally planned for a celebration with a musician from the neighborhood and some food. But instead, we worked with a local teen named Gabe, who created a lovely video of the event, sort of a digital celebration. And he used the musician, Pilgrims of Stoke, who lives in the neighborhood. Soon after that planting, Canopy was invited to join a budding collaborative effort called Climate Ready North Fair Oaks. They're led by Climate Resilient Communities, another nonprofit, and this group of stakeholders, nonprofits, university students, and residents has worked together to implement multiple initiatives that support climate change related impacts on the community, not just tree related impacts, flooding, air pollution, hazard mitigation, all kinds of stuff. So these are some of the folks that are part of the collaborative Stanford Future Bay Initiative, Enfoca, North Fair Oaks Community Alliance, Siena Youth Center, El Concilio of San Mateo County, Youth Dream Volunteers, Canopy, and Climate Resilient Communities. I'll share a little bit about our collaboration and successes of this collaboration and what it's meant for North Fair Oaks. One of the major ones is that Climate Ready North Fair Oaks leaders came together to write a proposal that would support Canopy's tree planting efforts for North Fair Oaks, and submitted this proposal to Supervisor Slocum. And through this, we received Measure K funding that would support outreach efforts in North Fair Oaks. We received $20K to support outreach. The quality outreach is really key to reaching residents and gaining trust. We recognize we're a new nonprofit to the community, and we need to gain trust from the community and really engage with folks. So the extra funding help with that was really great. Part of this grant allows us to purchase and provide free gift cards to residents who accept a free tree from Canopy in their front yard. And it was said in the front yard specifically gets the gift card because there's a need for sidewalk shade, which is important for later on in my presentation. And so this gift card is our hope that we can help alleviate burden further. We realize that saying yes to a tree can be, expensive at some point. And so we hope that the gift cards can help support any tree care needs for residents. Also with SFBI students, that's the Stanford Future Bay Initiative. We've done outreach and with Climate Ready North Fair Oaks folks as well. The SFBI students created a tree planting prioritization tool, which is a dashboard that we've been using for outreach. Essentially, it looks at North Fair Oaks from a parcel level, and we can go parcel by parcel, and it calculates need for trees, need for canopy based on a few different measures, including parcel type, if it's in the DAC or the DAC, disadvantaged community designation, if what's the pedestrian traffic like, greenness index, potential plantable area, etc. So we've been using this to help find the neighborhoods in North Fair Oaks with the highest need and to start our outreach there. Our next planting was in December of last year with the Siena Youth Center. We partnered with the center to get the word out, and it was in that neighborhood surrounding the center. We planted 11 trees, and this is the first time we implemented the gift card program funded by Measure K. And so you see Ever there, and Ever's wife, Gabby, came to help plant trees with us, which was really nice. We also had quite 5 popcorn plantings. And so this is a model that we've been using more and more with the pandemic. Basically, popcorn plantings are small plantings, usually at one household during the week, intended to get the residents who weren't able to participate in the larger event. Obviously, we prefer to get everyone in the neighborhood event because of staff capacity and everything. But a lot of times folks might see us out planting and be inspired and want a tree after the fact. And so we definitely want to still get them trees. So we held 5 of these popcorn plantings throughout North Fair Oaks last season and planted 8 trees. Our final planting of the season was earlier this year, and was in what I call the community center neighborhood. It's the neighborhood across the street from the North Fair Oaks Community Center. We wanted to theme it as an Earth Day celebration for the community because it was 2 days after Earth Day. We had a lot of initial interest. 24 trees were signed up with me and being checked for utility conflicts and clearing them. Many residents of this neighborhood were interested in street trees as there are existing planting strips. Not all neighborhoods in North Fair Oaks have planting strips, but this neighborhood did, and actually there's a handful of homes that the planting strip was the only plantable area and the rest of the yard was concrete. So that's one reason people wanted street trees. After conversations with San Mateo County Public Works, we learned that we could not offer street trees to residents due to a couple factors. One being that our approved species list does not match the county's species list. So we couldn't offer an approved species. Also, there is a permitting process that is challenging and not quite clear at the time. And so, we're telling people we're offering trees for free. And if we come back with saying, okay, you need to pay $127 permit fee, that's definitely a deterrent for folks. And so I'm going to get into this a little bit more. So when I say planting strip, that patch of grass is what I'm talking about. There are open patches of dirt or grass between the street and the sidewalk where a tree could go. This one looks about 3 feet wide, maybe 4, probably 3, which is a great size for a medium-sized tree. It's plenty of room for roots that wouldn't lead to damage with the right species, right tree, right place. And as you can see, the front yard is completely concrete. And actually the backyard was too for this one. And so this was the only plantable area for this resident. A lot of homes, like I said, have completely paved their front to create more spaces for parking. Now, I know the council's heard a lot about parking and it's an ongoing issue, but I just want to relate it to how it impacts trees and plantable area to use. There are a lot of barriers to planting trees. In communities that were historically redlined, the infrastructure is not set up great to accept trees to begin with. And just in general, you know, in East Palo Alto, it's the same, high renter population. Renters can't make decisions about what happens on the property that they live on. But at least in East Palo Alto, where we're allowed to plant in public right-of-way, renters are able to say yes to public trees and not, you know, have a problem with their landlord, but still get a tree and be able to water it and watch it grow, which is nice. Power lines and utilities can be an issue as well in many spaces, but we always check for underground utilities. We won't ever plant on a water line or within a certain amount of feet of a water line or sewer line. And again, the costs of trees is a deterrent. So adding additional cost of permits definitely changed yeses to nos. And I will add that folks brought up to me that they didn't feel like, so people who said no up front to trees said that there was a lack of trust that public trees would be taken care of properly. And there's a fear of trees failing, which could be hazardous. So, you know, lots of different feelings throughout the community about trees. But across the board, people know about climate change. People know that it's getting hotter. People know that air pollution is getting worse. We don't have to use that as a motivation. People get that, but there's a lot of other barriers that still prevent the community from moving to getting more trees. And so I'll share our hopes with you. We hope to be able to offer free public trees to residents who desire them. We hope to grow the urban canopy cover in North Fair Oaks, reducing heat and climate crisis impacts. And I'll just briefly go over the maintenance agreement that was provided by Public Works. And this is the permitting process for the planting of public trees. So at the top is the species list that I mentioned that doesn't match ours. The next slide will have ours. So it's a bit of a small list. It's not super comprehensive or, you know, North Fair Oaks parcels are small. The plantable area is not the same as Menlo Oaks. So we feel that, you know, having a lot of large oaks and then small ashes doesn't really give folks a really fair palette. Let's see, there's a maintenance agreement that comes along with the permit. The maintenance agreement calls for all maintenance concerns, including pruning, street sweeping, etc., to fall completely on the resident. Historically, a policy like this has not fared well for urban forests. The average person doesn't know how to take care of a tree, and so trees could either go unkempt and become hazardous, or they could be pruned incorrectly, haphazardly, and their lifespan shortened and then the impact reduced. A recent example of this is in San Francisco, which had a similar policy up until a few years ago. And they essentially bought back the ownership of all public trees and are now going through their inventory, replacing trees that have failed, etc. Maintenance of trees is super key. It's almost more important than planting, because if you're planting trees and not taking care of them and they die, you're not really doing anything. And maintaining trees is expensive. It's hard. It takes a lot of manpower and coordination. It's not easy, but it is doable and really essential to growing a healthy urban forest that will sustain the community. Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to highlight, that the permit calls for root barriers to be planted with public trees, and that is a conflict with our grantor, our contract with CAL FIRE, who fund us. We're not able to plant with root barriers due to the damage that they do to the tree. Some people call them tree coffins, that's a little extreme, but essentially root barriers stunt the tree and, you know, prevent the tree from giving the full benefits. And so that's why Canopy cannot plant trees with root barriers. And so our asks are for trees, for the trees planted in the public right-of-way, public trees. We would like to see the approved tree species list expanded to be more comprehensive and allow for a wider variety of trees that are appropriate for the plantable spaces within North Fair Oaks. We feel that $127 permit fee is too high for the community. I've already outlined a lot of the struggles that the community faces, and you know, we work really hard to fundraise and you know, get funding that allows us to do all this for free for residents, because we're serving underinvested communities, and we know that cost is a barrier to planting trees. So it's kind of a conflict to what we're trying to do. And also to reconsider maintenance responsibility to not fall purely on residents. Because like I said, that is a really big challenge, especially for folks who work multiple jobs. Just because someone works a lot of jobs and doesn't have a lot of money doesn't mean that they shouldn't be able to have canopy cover. This spreadsheet snippet is of our approved species list. The 3 highlighted cells are the trees that overlap with the county's list. Large oaks are wonderful, great for biodiversity, sequester lots of carbon. I've planted a few oaks in yards in North Fair Oaks, but generally parcels, plantable area aren't big enough to support an oak tree, which is why we're asking, we feel that the approved species list should be expanded further to allow for a more appropriate sized trees for the community. So thank you so much for having us. I'm happy to answer any questions, and Arlene's office line is right there if you are interested in hearing more about our Free Trees program.
Well, thank you very much, Maya. Do we have any questions from council members this evening? Vice Chair Prado, Carlos, go ahead. Juan Carlos, excuse me.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you, Maya, for that very detailed presentation, and thank you so much for your service for the organization. What have been the efforts of trying to illustrate to the county the differences? And I know you and I have had the discussion before about the county adding more, shall we say, appropriate trees for the circumstances of what North Fair Oaks is now and how developed it is now. Could you kind of update us on that?
Yeah, we've talked a little bit. We have a meeting coming up in a few weeks with Supervisor Slocum, and I believe Planning and Public Works will be there. Otherwise, Public Works provided this maintenance agreement to me recently, which I think is a new document that they put together after our conversations. And we gave a presentation a couple of months back with the Extreme Heat Task Force at the county. And we talked a lot about the need for tree canopy and the impact on health. And so that was mostly geared towards all county employees, but I think the public was allowed to be there as well. And that's as much as the conversation has gone so far.
Okay, well, thank you.
I'll add one more thing. The county sent me a spreadsheet and asked me to give them some detailed information about these tree species that I'm talking about. So I did that and I sent it back to them with details. So, you know, I think they're reviewing it to consider other species.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Juan Carlos. Councilmember Cerrillo, Beatrice.
Yes. This presentation has added clarity to a lot of questions and situations that I've encountered with neighbors in the Fair Oaks area who are very reluctant on planning, their renters or their owners. Usually the maintenance, the ongoing making, not knowing, the lack of education. So I think the ask, we need to keep asking. We need to keep having this discussion ongoing. We are in a climate crisis. It is clear on the map, the urgency that's going to increase in our area. It's not going to decrease unless we actually take aggressive action. And so if it means having more people at the table with strong discussion with those in positions of decision-making position, then we have to be persistent. We need more information. So I was glad for this presentation. I learned a lot, and I have now more focused information. And so I thank Maya for the presentation, the ongoing discussions we urgently need to continue. And I'd like the council to be actively present at all times at all levels, when this conversation absolutely needs to continue.
Thank you so much, Beatrice.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Whitney. Larry, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm one of the 50% of the people that are renters. And my bedroom faces the street and instead of trees. Kind of sucks, but how can a renter get involved and take advantage of this? Ideally, they take one of the utility boxes out and not get a street tree and go out and water it and do all that stuff. But also, one question, that housing thing that we looked at earlier, it was right by the Hetch Hetchy pipeline corridor, and I looked at Google Maps, and that's like a whole urban corridor that in my part of town we got community gardens, but there's a whole stretch where there's just like barren fields and chain link fences.
Right.
Could we do like an urban forest along that corridor or something with like a bike pedestrian trail?
So
I'm throwing it out there.
Yeah, no, that's been we've asked that because Bellhaven has the corridor as well. SFPUC has said no, we cannot plant anything on Hetch Hetchy line at all, even shrubs, no trees, nothing. So the gardens, garden beds work because they're not in the ground, they're in garden boxes, but nothing can go in the ground on Hetch Hetchy, unfortunately. And then I think your first question was about putting a tree somewhere where there maybe isn't space now, but could be. I don't know what the process would be to like create plantable area to cut out planter strips, like where there's space. Like in East Palo Alto, sometimes planter strips have been paved over as well, but there's an opportunity to recut them and plant. I don't know what that process would be for the county. Perhaps it's possible. But thank you for your question, Blair.
Councilmember Rodriguez, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, thank you, Maya. Nice seeing you.
Nice seeing you.
The issue of reforestation in North Fair Oaks is very important as trees improve, as we all know, trees improve the health and livelihood of people. I don't particularly have a question because, as Maya said, I've been involved in this issue for a long time. But I just wanted to point out that Supervisor Slocum is also very committed and supportive to this endeavor of free tree planting in North Fair Oaks. And he supported a request we made to incentivize tree planting and providing funding for that. And I'd like to read a brief quote from his website where he says, quote, "And that is why equity is on top of the list for me. Today, I asked the county manager to explore all new ways to anchor equity in county government operations as we begin to work in our social progress index gaps as we start a new decade." However, end of quote, sorry. However, it is the older policies that are now preventing, to some extent, Canopy's plan to give free trees to North Fair Oaks neighborhoods. While San Mateo County is also committed to address climate change, some of its policies still don't reflect this commitment, as those policies are old. And they are to some respect they are based on protecting the infrastructure, essentially what's underneath, the sewer system, etc. And therefore is lagging behind the changes that are needed to do reforestation in many areas of North Fair Oaks. So for this reason, I would like to make a recommendation as an encouragement to the Department of Public Works to support free trees planting in the public right-of-way of North Fair Oaks by expanding, the approved tree list, and also by reducing the permitting fees. So that residents can have, better alternatives, and also so that county public works can reconsider maintenance responsibility so that it doesn't fall entirely on the people of North Fair Oaks.
Thank you, Ever.
Are there other questions from council members? Maya, I had a question with regard, you mentioned a meeting that's coming up with Supervisor Slocum in a few weeks. Now, we have several tree issues going on in North Fair Oaks right now. Does that tie in with the work that Melissa Ross is doing with regard to tree regulations and that sort of thing? Is that part of the tree equation?
So this meeting was put together by a member of FOBA, Fair Oaks Beautification Association. Okay. So they invited us, and I believe Melissa Ross was invited as well, and Kwa Vo from Public Works. Okay. Yeah. So
is this the November 15th meeting that we're talking about, the follow-on to the one that was held just a couple of weeks ago?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, good. That was, I'm trying to keep all the balls in the air here, but I was at that meeting as well as I understand the follow-on has been scheduled for the 15th. So that was just a clarification point in my mind. That's terrific. And anyone from the public, in fact, who has an interest in attending that meeting, please send your email address to myself or Maggie Cornejo, and we'll get you an invitation to that meeting where tree regulations throughout North Fair Oaks are going to be discussed, and the issues that Ever brought up just now, I think, are a relevant part of that discussion. Are there other questions from council members? Okay, I see none. Do we have public comment on this presentation?
Yes, I see two folks that are interested in sharing a public comment. So first, Kaplan Wong CPAs will go, and then Cade Kennedy. So I will start the time. And let's see. Okay, Kaplan Wong, you are all set?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so it's Laura Kaplan. I'm sorry, as I couldn't change my name there. And I am with FOBA, and that is the North Fair Oaks Beautification Association, which represents a portion of North Fair Oaks. I wanted to first just clarify what was said a minute ago about that meeting, because there are two meetings that are scheduled. And I think that the one we're talking about is actually the one on the 19th. And that is the one where we will have a representation from FOBA, from Canopy, from City Trees, and from the county offices. So I just wanted to clarify that initially. And thank you, Maya, so much for your presentation. And thank you, Ever and Beatriz, for your passion here. FOBA, just as a quick background, had planted over 400 trees in the North Fair Oaks area in conjunction with the county's efforts. And we have recently, I mean, over the years, this is over 20 years ago, those trees have grown up strong and beautiful. There's been attrition. One event that happened fairly recently was when the Public Works did some road work on one of our avenues. Several trees were a victim, and the county offered to waive the permitting fees. So there were several folks in our community who were very interested in planting trees, and we got together with Canopy and City Trees and came up with a plan facilitated by Supervisor Slocum's office to have a November fall tree planting event. And we outlined 10 areas where trees had been. We sent maps and information to the county, and we thought we had it all kind of agreed. But then we were told that there is a new policy. And yes, this is not an old policy. This is a new policy because the older policy that we worked under in the past was very different. And I just really need to say that this is definitely onerous. It's not just the fact about the types of trees and the root barriers and so on and so forth. But I think one of the things that absolutely needs to be addressed is the liability issue. And that is requesting that the whoever plants the trees needs to indemnify the county, its officers, agents, employees, and include not only the applicant, but heirs, successors, executors, administrators. I mean, it's very onerous. We don't have the insurance coverage nor the ability in any way to be able to take on that kind of liability. So it just presents, this is just another layer of a presentation of a barrier to planting and growing our canopy. And I know that Supervisor Slocum and the county does have the intention of going forward and trying to rectify this. And that is what we will be discussing at our November 19th meeting. So, but I did want to make the council aware of that, and that's kind of another layer of importance here.
Thank you for that, Laura, and thank you for letting us know about the November 19th meeting. Do we have additional public comment, Jennifer?
Yes, there's one more, Cade Kennedy. So I will also give you permission to unmute yourself, and I will start the time.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Let me just start the timer. Okay, you're set to go.
Thank you, everyone, for having us today, and thank you, Maya, for that great presentation. My name is Cade Kennedy, and I'm a program manager with Climate Resilient Communities. I think Councilwoman Cedillo said it well, that everyone deserves these trees, and this is a matter of equity, and that we're in a climate crisis right now. And this is a really tangible path forward that will make a difference in the lives of North Fair Oaks residents. And so I really appreciate the council's support and hope they'll continue to have our back as we lobby the county to reduce or eliminate these onerous fees and expand the species list so that we have a wider array of trees and can plant in more places. So thank you very much for having our back in this issue, and thank you for all the work you're doing to advance this and get these onerous regulations changed so that we can do something that will help the community and make it more resilient to the effects of climate change going forward. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Cade. Are there additional questions from the public, Jennifer?
I think, Laura, would you like to go again?
Do you mind? I'm sorry, I talked a long time. I wanted to clarify about the meeting and so on, but I did want to also mention that we had planned a fall tree planting. We did have a lot of people very excited about the tree planting in our community, but because of these regulations, the liability clauses, the maintenance agreement that we're being asked to sign that is right now really only in draft form. But because of that, we had to cancel our fall tree planting effort. And I just kind of wanted to mention that in case there were people who knew about the fact that we had planned it. So hope going forward, this is another issue that we can address, because yes, the whole idea is that not to put the burden on the residents and not to put the burden on even organizations such as FOBA to in perpetuity be liable or responsible for trees. I mean, certainly maintaining and caring for the trees as they grow and taking reasonable responsibility, we all agree to. But yeah, we just want to lessen the barriers. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Do we have any additional public comment, Jennifer?
Yes, if anyone else has another comment to share, please use the raise hand feature. Okay, I see Niket. I hope I am pronouncing your name correctly. So I will start the clock and also give you permission to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Hi, thank you very much. I'm a resident here in North Fair Oaks on the avenues, and I wanted to just thank you all for your time. We've got a lot of issues about trees, and I wanted to speak again in support of some of the neighbors that were talking earlier about preventing trees. So, you know, I'm really supportive of Maya's efforts of planting trees and increasing the canopy. However, you know, we also need to protect the existing trees out there, and I am part of the meeting on the 15th with Warren Slocum. We had talked about it earlier. We would definitely love the council's support, knowing how important the trees are in either working towards a moratorium on the removal of trees or asking any permits to remove trees due to buildings, designs, requests for that sort of thing to go through a more stringent process. We have talked with Warren Supervisor Slocum about this, and any changes in ordinances are going to take a while. So anything that we can provide to help protect the existing trees before they are removed and ruined, and the canopy in the area, we would appreciate your help. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much, Niket.
Yeah, if anyone else has a comment to share. Okay, Clara, is anyone on the line?
Jennifer, there are no public comments on the line.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Back to you, Chair.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So if I understand this correctly, and folks, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to make sure everyone walks away with an idea of the sessions that are going to be coming up with regard to trees. As I understand it, on November 15th, there'll be a meeting with the supervisor as a follow-up to kind of the first community meeting that he has held with regard to tree removals, particularly in the southern part of North Fair Oaks, and the county's response to the input and ideas that have been received on that. And again, as I mentioned earlier, if you'd like to be invited to that meeting and have not been, please let me know, let Maggie know, and we'll get you on the distribution for that. The second meeting, as a matter of fact, kind of related to that, is at our November 18th North Fair Oaks Community Council meeting. We're going to get a presentation from TJ Holmes. So that'll be an opportunity for members of the community, particularly those who may not have spoken with TJ Holmes, to present or to discuss their ideas with regard to trees, the efforts that TJ Holmes has made in terms of outreach and their plans going forward. So we'll hear from them. We'll be able to engage in a dialogue on that. And then finally, now, as I understand it, on November 19th, there'll be a meeting with FOBA, City Trees, et cetera, as according to Laura Kaplan, where we'll be talking about barriers to planting, maintenance agreements, permit fees, etc. I personally would like to attend that meeting, Laura, and I'm sure others from the community would. So if you could share those details via email, send it to my email address at the county. I'll make sure that the people who are interested in that meeting can attend as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, folks. I believe I've captured ongoing sessions and upcoming meetings with regard to the tree canopy in North Fair Oaks. Okay.
Sounds about right.
Okay.
And thank you, Brooks. Yeah, I think it would be great if Laura and somebody else who's involved with Maya, who's involved with participating directly with these meetings, if they can send the information to all of us so that we can also attend and share that information.
That would be great. I'm seeing a hand raise from Suzanne. Yadi, does that under public comment? Suzanne, would you like to go ahead?
We'll give them permission to unmute, and then I will start the clock.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Suzanne.
Okay, good. No, I just want to make a comment in regards to the November 15th meeting. We are the smaller committee, Niket just spoke about it, that we met with you and Warren Slocum and the lawyer and so forth in regards to the Canopy, and TJ Homes. That's, of course, everybody is welcome, but not everybody is involved in knowing all the emails and the work we have done. And that's what I wanted to refer to. That's on the 15th. So the 18th is apparently then another meeting where the TJ Homes is presenting, and then the 19th is the FOBA and Canopy that Laura Kaplan referred to. Is that correct? That's what I wanted to just clarify.
Yes, Suzanne, that is correct. You've got it.
Okay, so so that's all. Because not everybody's involved with the 15th meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment on this item? Okay, well, terrific, and thank you very much, Maya, for your presentation. Thank you, everyone, for your input on this. Obviously, a lot of attention, a lot of interest on the tree canopy in North Fair Oaks. We've got many people involved from a variety of different aspects, and I'm pleased to see the progress that we're making. Very pleased to see the dialogue that we're having with the supervisor and the engagement that the county's having with regard to making it easier to improve the tree canopy in our neighborhood. So that's real progress. With that, I think we'll wrap up for the evening. I'd like to thank all of the presenters that we had tonight. Also thank members of the public who came and participated in this, Ginny and Ron, as well as Kate, Ginny, Julia, Laura, Niket, Suzanne, and Will, as well as members of the media, Leah Worthington and Michelle Iracheta from the Redwood City Pulse. Thank you very much for your participation this evening. As always, thanks so much to our county staff, the folks who really help us make these meetings go. Jennifer, Clara, Tim, and Maggie for their support. Jennifer is moving on from us. She's going back to school. We are going to miss her. Congratulations on that. And Jennifer, we very much appreciate the service that you've provided to the council. Thanks so much. Reminder of our next meeting, please put this in your calendars. We have a regular session on Thursday, November 18th, 2021 at 7 o'clock. And with that, I believe we can stand adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.